right, and welcome back to HealthSparx, featuring the brightest entrepreneurs and innovations in the health and technology arena. I am Michael Walsh, your host. Welcome back to the show, guys. Very excited for today's guest. We've got Samantha Godfrey, the co-founder and CEO of a startup called Pharmly. These guys are out in the valley right now. I think they're actually probably based down near Southern California. I'm guessing that's where Sam's living at this point. But right now they're hanging out in the valley looking to raise some money, get things rolling. They're just coming out of an accelerator program, I believe, called Blue Startups that's actually based in Honolulu. Totally jealous of Sam and her team for hanging out in Honolulu for 90 days. So excited to hear about that. But another great concept, guys. This one, Pharmly, they're helping to optimize the supply chain of pharmaceutical companies and help make it a little bit easier for businesses to get access to all these pharma drugs that they need, lowering the cost, speeding things up, just managing this process a bit better. So Sam's got all sorts of experience in the industry. I believe it's like 10 years or so, something like that. So excited to have her on the show to talk about what they're doing. So what is HealthSparx all about? For those that are just stopping by for the first time, it's all about sharing stories, guys. It's all about spreading the word about all these great startups in health and technology they're launching these days. This space is absolutely on fire. If you're interested in getting into this, all sorts of great tips and advice from all of my guests each week. So definitely check out some of the other shows in addition to this one with Sam. It's been amazing the last couple of months here, getting to know all these great startup entrepreneurs and experts talking about what needs to happen to really make a huge dent in how we deliver health and how we deliver healthcare to patients, between insurance providers, between all the healthcare systems themselves, whatever it might be. That's what HealthSparx is all about. Sharing stories, sharing advice, getting together and making things happen. So glad you can be part of this. A couple quick things before we get started with Sam. As always, please subscribe here on the website, or you can go to healthsparx.com/subscribe. This is just a way for you guys to join my VIP mailing list, and I send you all the episodes each Tuesday morning as I post them. As well as some other goodies that, again, I know I keep telling you guys, you return visitors, that there's more stuff coming. I got to make sure that it can make a huge dent. So I promise there's some good stuff coming, perks, more tips and advice from my guests. So subscribe here on the website or go to healthsparx.com/subscribe, and you can have access to all that good stuff. As well as, of course, I have to throw a shout out to my buddies at Satori Tech Solution. As always, these guys are great. If you're looking to build a startup of your own, some type of technology, a mobile app, if you need help in managing your social media accounts or working on your search engine optimization to make sure that your site is being found in Google or Bing or whatever, these guys are definitely some people you want to call. Give them a ring or look them up at satoritechsolutions.com. You can always reach out to me here on the website as well, and I'll put you in touch. I know these guys very well. They help me with all of my startups, all of my websites. Always extremely responsive, very easy to work with. Can't thank them enough for everything they do for me. So check them out. All right, I think that's it. Let's get into it today. Samantha Godfrey, the co-founder and CEO of Pharmly. All right, everybody, today on HealthSparx, I've got Samantha Godfrey, the co-founder and CEO of a startup out on the West Coast called Pharmly. Samantha and her team are working on optimizing the pharmaceutical supply chain for medical facilities. Real neat product. If you haven't heard of these guys, definitely go to their website here after the episode. Go check out their video. Sam and I were just chatting about how charming it is. Sam, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Michael.
So really excited for you guys. I know you mentioned that you guys are just finishing up an accelerator program. You're working on more product development, raising money, getting people excited. So real amped to hear all about it. But before we get into any of that, I always love to sort of take a step back. Start with you as an entrepreneur and what you're all about. So give us some background about you, where you grew up, where you went to school. Give us the scoop.
Sure. Well, I grew up mostly in Michigan and went to school at Central Michigan University, majored in political science, and ended up on a road trip down to Florida to go to law school. And on the way, I ended up applying to the startup company in the pharmaceutical wholesale industry. And started there this summer, didn't think anything of it, thought I was going to quit when law school started in the fall. And I started to do the sales process, and I was like, wow, this is so easy. I can do this. Like, I don't need to know what the pharmaceutical products are so much, but I did really well in customer relationship management and communicating with these hospitals to see what products that they needed. Sure. And so when the fall came around, I actually switched my law program to at night and ended up hating law. So stuck with pharmaceuticals. And along the way, I've managed sales teams for 3 different pharmaceutical wholesaler companies in the exact space that we built Pharmly. And I now run my own company, United Drug Supply, which is also a pharmaceutical company in the same wholesale space.
I mean, so what type of pharmaceuticals exactly are we talking here?
I mean, we're taking anything from over-the-counter products like diabetic test strips to injectable products, cancer drugs, chemotherapy drugs, anesthesia medications such as propofol, which everyone usually tends to know. But it's not necessarily so much the products as knowing how to communicate with the customer as to what they need, because there's so many drugs out there. I don't claim to be a pharmacist, but I do claim to be able to listen to a customer to find out their needs and then go procure that product from somewhere in the industry.
Yeah, I got to tell you, just from my own personal experience, I see my grandparents, for instance, and literally I just saw them last week in Chicago, and my grandma walks in with these 2 giant bags, Ziploc bags full of pharma drugs and over-the-counter stuff. I'm like, how do you know what all this stuff is?
Yeah.
How do you keep track of it?
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. And you can try and keep up, but there's always a new drug coming out. There's always a new generic product coming out. So it takes constant communication with your customers to make sure that you know what products that they use on a daily basis, for sure.
All right. So how many years then would you say that you've kind of been you said law school wasn't going to work out for you. You loved pharma. So how many years have you been kind of at this whole pharma thing?
Just over 10 years.
Okay. So now I got to ask you, over the last 10 years, I mean, before you got into Pharmly, obviously, but before this idea came up, did you ever think of yourself as an entrepreneur?
Well, no. When I worked for other people, no. I worked for 3 different companies and I made a ton of money. I loved my job. I loved the teams that I was building there. I loved my lifestyle. And it wasn't until I separated from the last company I worked with because of financial reasons. They had to negotiate my contract and we didn't see eye to eye. So I had to move on, and I was kind of put in a position like, whoa, what do I do now? And so I went to start the first company with my first business partner and did that the wrong way. Didn't have things in writing, and that didn't work out. My second business in the space, 6 months to 9 months later, I had bad business partner choice then as well. Didn't have things in writing, and third time's a charm. And United Drug Supply came around and got the right business partner, who's an attorney, which always helps. And
right.
And well on our way.
Good. Okay. So, I mean, again, for entrepreneurs out there listening, it's always nice to have a guest on the show that, she's gone out there, she's dominated the space, she's learned some things along the way, and, here she is now kicking ass and launching startups. So not everybody is comes out of school or comes out of high school or whatever, bred for startups. Some people evolve into the role. So great to hear this type of story, and great to, see what you guys are doing out on the West Coast. So
yeah.
Let's get into Pharmly a little bit. So same thing, always kind of curious to talk to startup entrepreneurs and ask the question, can you remember what that point was, what that moment was where you said, this is a real problem and I need to build something to solve it? The evolution of where Pharmly came from?
I think that it's been evolving for the past few years in my mind just because of access to pharmaceuticals, right? I mean,
Sure.
when you've been a sales rep and you've had to call people nonstop on the phone to be able to help them locate product and check with them via email all day, and then you can't get a hold of them, it's kind of evolved. Why isn't there some portal like eBay or Amazon to go find pharmaceuticals that you need with multiple vendors listed to where you can get the fairest price possible? It just seems absurd that there's no site like that out there. And so it evolved through this whole process. And one day I was speaking to my business partner and co-founder now, Kavsla Chandani, and I was like, we need to kind of, create a platform, even in this space, to be able to bring customers and vendors together. It just seems so simple. And he's like, well, I mean, there has to be somebody out there doing it, right? And that's usually the ultimate phrase that I hear from people, like there's no one out here doing this. And well, there's Alibaba, and we all know Alibaba's the largest B2B marketplace in the world, and they sell pharmaceuticals very badly, and they have a bad reputation being in China. And there are a couple smaller players out there, but no one that's really focusing on the initial core need that we're providing through Pharmly. And, just to give you a brief sense or two about Pharmly. Pharmly really is the first of its kind pharmaceutical marketplace that allows medical facilities nationwide to source pharmaceuticals that they can't get from their primary contract. So what do I mean when I say this? That means every day there's a medical facility, and it's been accumulated that there are 89% of medical facilities every day can't find a specific drug that they need for their hospital. And we're focusing on this initial niche market because that's where my background and my history comes into play.
Right.
And so with the site, we're essentially going to allow them to come on board, put in a bid request, accept bids from licensed, verified, vetted vendors that we've already done background checks on, and allow them to either accept or reject the offer based on what works for them. And we're simply end up being like a matching service for them. Then we take a transaction fee off of the overall amount. And it's so simple. And it seems crazy to me sometimes in the development of our process that there really isn't anything like this out here today. But that's how, as an entrepreneur, when you see these inefficiencies that are happening in a market that you have experience in, that's when I think that you need to kind of jump at that opportunity and say, wow, I want to address this problem. And although I want to address, access to pharmaceuticals on a global level eventually one day, you have to focus on your niche, right? And
Sure.
what you know right now to be able to build traction in your site, build the marketplace, and build the popularity to get that kind of validation in the market.
All right, so I got to ask you, just putting this all in perspective, what I just heard, is the target user for this, is it more like you said, Alibaba, is it more businesses, or are we going for actual consumers and patients?
No, we are a B2B marketplace. So
Okay.
we're initially focusing on the 6,000 hospitals located throughout the country because that's where my background and experience is in.
Sure.
And about 9 months down the road, we'll be focusing on the 500,000 medical facilities and people who are licensed to buy pharmaceuticals in the country, such as dentists, doctors, surgery centers, oncologists, private practice dermatologists. All of these people, purchase pharmaceuticals on a daily or weekly basis. And there's, they have maybe one contract or two contracts, or maybe they don't have a contract with a larger wholesaler player in the market. And the site is essentially going to allow them to comparative shop and make sure that they're obtaining pharmaceuticals at a price that's competitive and fair to them. And hopefully they can then pass along those savings to their patients.
All right, so can they place the order right through the Pharmly system?
You can place the order through the Pharmly system. A PO then gets matched, sent to the vendor and yourself, connecting you to that vendor.
Right.
At month 6, we're also planning on letting the vendors have their storefront, just like Amazon, to be able to order directly products
Sure.
if you have something in stock at the price that you want as well.
Awesome. Okay, so getting a little bit more into the company, you're one of the founders. Who are the other co-founders on this project?
So my other co-founder is Cubs Lal-Chandani. He's a partner in a law firm in Miami, Florida, and specializes in pharmaceutical compliance oversight. And I have been business partners with him with United Drug Supply for it's been a little over 3 years now, and I've been for 6 years. Him and I kind of vetted through the process of, is this idea actually something that, customers and vendors are going to want? We went through, all the business planning as well. And we brought on board, after a few different interviews, our CTO, who is Anup Marwadi, and he has his own software development company based in San Diego, and has a degree in medical informatics, and has over 15 years in developing software, and specifically for like a commerce type platform like we have.
Awesome. Now I got to ask you, just because you mentioned earlier with your other startups you've launched, how important the team is. Just how different is it working with a team like these two guys as opposed to your experiences working with your previous startups? I mean, tell people what the difference is of having a great team in place like this one.
And you're right. I mean, a great team is crucial, and we've heard in every single pitch and everyone we've talked to in trying to network about Pharmly, they're like, wow, our team is our strongest suit in pitching Pharmly, definitely. And it's important to take your time. I mean, it's having a business partner, I've been told it's kind of like being married.
Oh yeah, totally. Definitely.
Talking to them every single day. You're connected because you're financially connected too for the success of the company. You have to make these huge and crucial decisions. So it's definitely important to take your time and make sure you're finding the right fit for your team. And I think before I just was, kind of like winged it and was like, oh, somebody presented opportunity, you want to come on board? Sure. I didn't even think about having things in writing in regards to ownership or like what everyone's role was or, anything of these legal nature. And you have to figure out in building your company, what are you personally, what is your strong suit? Like, what do you have to offer? And then what other attributions do you need from other team members to bring that to make Pharmly a big, huge success? And I know that my strong suit is my industry background. I knew that obviously I don't code, although I have learned a lot about tech over the past few months, this accelerator program.
Right.
I knew that we needed a developer, and talking to Cubs, I knew that in working with him in the past, that him providing that legal expertise and legal compliance, especially with pharmaceuticals being so regulated, that those were the three pillars that we needed to be able to build Pharmly properly. And so, yes, it is very important to take your time about it and to kind of network with other people, go to these meetups, meet all the tech guys, kind of figure out who is suited for you, not only on a background level with their business, but also on a personality level. I mean, if you can't communicate with your team, then that also hinders you as well if that level isn't there.
Totally. And it's awesome. I mean, I'm so glad you brought this up again because it's such good advice and it's great to think about for any entrepreneurs out there that are thinking of putting a project together. Like, sometimes I'm not sure how the one person, founder teams manage. Like, you need a team. You can't do it all. So, great advice. Take your time, come up with a good group of people that really bring a bunch of different assets to the table and, get after it. So, I'm also wondering, as you're talking about this, how much your experience with this accelerator program had to do with how successful this team has been in the early going and getting this product out there. So yeah, chat with us a little bit about the experience of going through an accelerator program.
Sure, and you're right. I mean, a lot of people have business experience or they have their own small businesses already. Like they know, how a business should be run or how to hire people, how to manage a budget and whatnot. And so when the accelerator program came up, Blue Startups in Honolulu, Hawaii, my co-founder brought it to my attention that they were accepting applications, and we had considered applying to Techstars or Y Combinator, one of the really, really large accelerators. And, the Blue Startups, came about, and we're like, wow, we could be one of the first to go through the program. And I think that was, us as all entrepreneurs, like that was kind of like our competitive nature. Like we wanted to help grow and build Pharmly along with the accelerator program while it grows and builds. And we're in Hawaii. I mean, it's Startup Paradise, and you can hashtag Startup Paradise. You'll see all our pitches and stuff on there from different events we've been to, and some of our other cohorts, our team members in the cohort. And it's an awesome location, and especially with how virtual business is these days, you can essentially really work from wherever and build from wherever. A lot of times, it's funny when we relocated out to Hawaii, the Blue Startups group was like, yeah, some people on the mainland sometimes forget that Hawaii is like part of the United States, and it's true. You're out there. It's gorgeous. It's you can surf, you can swim, you can run, you can hike, and it's a tropical climate. And but ultimately, we found that being in Hawaii, being that it is kind of isolated, allowed us to kind of bring our team together on a level that allowed us to be more focused.
Sure.
And it could have been some of the time difference issues, or my co-founder has business in the East Coast, and I have a business in the West Coast, and so the time difference actually helped us because after a certain point, we only have time to focus on building our startup, which is Pharmly.
Sure.
And so the accelerator program, I'd never been through one before. I didn't really know how much benefit I was going to get from the program going in. But when you start and you go through the program and you see that you have all these mentors accessible to you through an accelerator program, and our mentor is actually Tina Fitch, founder of Switchfly, and she's located out in Maui. Advice as to scaling our business, about our business model and financials, about marketing, and not only her, there are about 30 other individuals on our that are available mentors within our program at Blue Startups, and they're very successful, have done huge exits. They're involved in the tech community, or they're involved in all these other different industries, and they're at our disposal to get advice and build our business. And that essentially, like, I think has been one of the major attributes for the program. And also when you start going through a accelerator program, you kind of see like, oh, wow, I should have probably done a business model like to the T, how much everything's going to cost, in building a startup. And I mean, to be honest with you, when I did my third startup with the right business partner started, a lot of times I just kind of winged it because I was doing so many other things, doing so many different roles, including accounting. I was helping with shipping and receiving, and like things get away from you, and to have things so organized and laid out for you through an accelerator program keeps you focused in building your startup to be the most effective product possible at the end of that 3-month program, to be able to get funding when you finally head to the Valley or you finally talk to other angel investors and whatnot.
Absolutely. So what's next for you guys? I mean, you've launched, the product hasn't quite launched yet, right? I mean, give us a quick update on that.
Our product went live about 10 days ago.
Okay.
Phase 1. But we do have 5 vendors and 33 hospital medical facilities that are signed up currently using our site. And that's actually over projections. And so it's very, very exciting to try and keep up with, all the questions that the customers have and all the features, and get that kind of validation that, wow, this is something that is saving them so much time and it's going to save them so much money in dealing with vendors like day to day. It's pretty awesome. And on the vendor side, they love that they're going to have access to so many more customers than they normally would without having to like make those 200 phone calls a day, right?
Right.
So we're actually in Silicon Valley this week. We've been in for about, we were in last week also, so we're in for another week, and we're demoing tomorrow at 500 Startups on June 11th, and setting up meetings with various angel investors and VC firms to talk about getting funding. And right now we're seeking $800,000 to $1.2 million in funding. So if anyone else is listening out there would like to be with us, you can feel free to contact me directly about that.
Awesome pitch.
I think I had a student ask me if I was pitching for money one day, and I was like, you always pitch for money.
Absolutely. Somebody told me the same thing with Caraloop. I said, I'm not the most experienced with selling and sales, and they're like, no matter what you're doing in a startup, you're always selling something. So get used to it pretty much.
I know, no matter what conversation you have with somebody about your company, essentially they need to know, okay, you've told me a little bit about your business, but you haven't asked them or told them what you're doing or seeking now. You really have to just be confident and just throw it out there. You never know in day-to-day passing, especially in the Valley, who you're meeting, as to who's going to be able to provide you that connection for the right group that you need to be speaking with. So we're out here in the Valley this week, and I may stay out here for a few more weeks. I'm not quite sure yet. Depends on how meetings go. And then we have a number of conferences that we'll be attending over the summer and in the fall to line up more customers and vendors as well. And ultimately hoping to build a product and move on to phase 2 once we get our funding.
Absolutely. Well, and again, I can't reiterate enough how excited I am for you guys. That's what HealthSparx is all about, featuring all these amazing stories and amazing products that people are coming up with, and can't wait to see what you guys are going to move on to here in this next stage as you get your funding and you really get out there and start just crushing it. So congrats on everything. I always like to kind of close things out with, everything you've been through now, 10 plus years in this industry. You've seen a lot. You've been through a lot with your own startups. Like to try and save entrepreneurs out there, or aspiring entrepreneurs, the time and the heartache of going through some of the mistakes and some of the pitfalls that we current entrepreneurs have gone through. So what can you tell us? What important lessons have you kind of learned throughout this process that we can share with everybody else?
Definitely, number one, and my past will tell you, get things in writing right from the beginning and set down everyone's roles. And, a lot of times I think entrepreneurs go into business with their friends, and you may not think that it's important in the beginning to to get everything down to a T about everyone's roles and what they're bringing to the table with the business. But that, I think, is the most crucial. So 6 months down the line, someone doesn't say, oh, well, that's not what you said, or oh, I wasn't sure I was supposed to be handling that. And that like really does lay the foundation as you build your startup, where you don't even have to be concerned about it because it's already taken care of. So I would say number one, definitely take care of that.
Right. Now here, let me stop you right there. Do you do so with like an operating agreement? How would you suggest doing this?
I would suggest doing, you know what's great about the Accelerator program is they actually provided a lot of these documents to us in setting the business and a foundation and everyone's like operating agreement and whatnot. And so if you don't have access to an Accelerator agreement, a lot of these documents are available online at a number of law firms' websites, and or consult an attorney that you know that specializes in startup corporations, LLCs, and whatnot, and speak with them. I mean, I would never, ever, suggest not talking to professionals when you're about to start up a business.
Right. Totally. Yep. Great advice. And it's something that it seems so simple, like you said, but it can get lost in the mix. Like it slips through the cracks when you're just trying to get after it and make things happen as quickly as you can. So it's really, really good advice. Definitely worth sharing. So again, yeah, thank you so much for being part of the show. And I'm hoping that maybe 6 months down the line here, after you guys get that big check and you're out there crushing it, that maybe we can get you back on the show to give us an update about how things are going.
Yeah, definitely, Michael. Thank you so much for having us on the show. We're looking forward to seeing Pharmly develop on it as we are as well.
Yep. Best of luck the next few weeks out in the Valley.
All right. Thanks, Michael. Bye.
All right, that is it for me and Sam Godfrey. Great stuff again. Another awesome concept. Very grateful to Sam for spending some time with us today. I know she's very busy out in the Valley right now, looking to get some cash for her startup and get after it. So definitely check out Pharmly. Go watch that video like I mentioned early on. It's really neat to check out. It's just another awesome concept. I'm very excited for these guys. So thanks for being a part of it today with me, everybody. As always, I want to remind you guys we're also available on iTunes and Stitcher Radio. The links are on the website if you want to follow us there. Of course, every episode is posted right here as well every Tuesday morning. So be sure to check out some of the other stuff I've posted. Some really, really great startups. Lots of advice. I've got people who've joined us from Canada. I've got people who've joined us from Australia. Check it out. It's all good stuff. Would love to hear any feedback you have on how I'm doing, how I'm delivering you the content each week, what you think of the website, yada, yada. Bring it on. I think that's about it for today. Another great show. So looking forward to seeing you guys and talking to you guys next week. Until then, I'm your host, Michael Walsh. We'll talk to you then.